Well, greetings and salutations, everybody out there in YouTube land. I'm your host this morning, Dan Thornton, and thank you all for tuning in this day before the Thanksgiving tradition for Lions Talk Live. If I'm sounding a little hoarse, I apologize. Been doing a lot of coaching the last 2 days, and you know what? When you're getting out there and getting after it, the voice does have to get adjusted to things, just like the players got to get into shape and get conditioned. So anyways, before we get into all the today's topics of conversations, hope you all enjoyed the thumbnail too. I always enjoy making those things. If you're new to Lions Talk Live, please consider doing so as far as subscribing. Trying to make a push before kickoff tomorrow to get to 4,600. I think we're like 30 away or something like that. So if you're enjoying the content, you're new to the channel, or just you've been here and haven't yet subscribed, hopefully you'll hit the subscription button. Also, don't be afraid to hit the thumbs up button, the like button, all that, because all those things do help out. Now, one last thing before we get into the content today. In case you're unaware, outside of being a coach, a reporter, a YouTuber, all that stuff, I do sell real estate and have for over 30 years. So if you're looking to buy or sell property in the state of Michigan, maybe consider giving me a call or shooting me a text. Let me see if I can help you save some money. 269-998-2384. I get some of you do not live in Michigan, either the Upper Peninsula or Lower Peninsula. You can still give me a call, and let me see if I can help answer some questions for you and see if I can help you locate somebody who will work on your behalf, save you some cash. All right. Again, sorry about my throat and my voice. It's probably not the best, but let's get going with it and get into today's topics. So as you guys all know, we got the big game tomorrow against Green Bay. And yeah, I do think this is a golden opportunity for the Lions to secure a winning record. And that's really something for us all to consider, isn't it? You win tomorrow, you're 9-2. You're going to, even if you lose every game the rest of the way, which I hope we don't, you're going to have a winning record and probably make the playoffs. So let's all talk about it and get in. All right, Dave, what do you got? Greetings and salutations all. We better not overlook Green Bay tomorrow. I agree. And I get we've played 2 straight games with nail biter coming down to the last second, yada, yada. You get it. Green Bay, let's also be fair to them. You look at the quarterback play, and let's start with Love. Jordan Love is playing better than when we faced him earlier in this year. His reads are a little bit better. His throws are a little bit crisper. His accuracy is improving. I get it's still below 60%, I think, for the year. But I'm just going to worry about the last 3 or 4 games. And yes, you can see that he is evolving. He is improving. So is the play of some of their younger players. Let's take note. They do have one of the youngest offenses, if not the youngest offense in all the NFL. So the upside growth potential for such a team is high. I would say this to a team I coach or any team I would give advice to. You get an opportunity to beat somebody down, you do it, because the longer you keep a team around in the game, the more they believe, and the more really just 1 or 2 plays can really turn up a game for you or against you in a hurry. So, I'm fully anticipating Dan Campbell and the coaching staff are doing everything they can to say, hey, it's time to go after these guys. All right, Michael Jordan. Good morning, Coach and Lions faithful. I hope everyone's getting pumped up for this Turkey Day massacre put on by the Lions. And wouldn't that be something, MJ? I mean, if you're a Lions fan and you're over the age of 10, all you've known for the most part is misery on Thanksgiving. A couple exceptions here and there in the 90s and other spots. But yeah, we could be starting something here. Last year was a very competitive game, came down to the wire against the Bills. And today, hey, go out here and get this win. You're starting to build a cultural change in Detroit that we haven't seen in a while. All right, Phil, we got doobie doo. Yeah, all right. Greetings and salutations, Coach Dan. Same to you, Phil, and I always appreciate you being in here, man. Papa Noel, greetings and salutations to all. Coach, I get your point about AG and the defense doing enough last game, but do you feel AG is on the hot seat? Ooh, that's a good question. I would say this. I want to look at it from 2 standpoints. One, how much talent has Aaron Glenn really had to work with in his time here? Now, one could argue the talent is improving, and I think we'd all agree in that argument that, yes, it is improving. It is developing. The other part of that, though, is Aaron Glenn developing like the younger talent? He's clearly better, and you guys have heard me talk about it, and especially I feel like in the last week or so. If you go and look at the tape, look at his adjustments, and put that versus year 1 to year 2, now year 2 to year 3, you can see growth in my eyes, at least, my point of view, I think you can see he's developing. Does he still need to develop more? Absolutely, without question. He needs to be able to make in-game adjustments far faster than what is currently happening. I would also say that is true with Ben Johnson as well. I don't know if he'll be gone if they were really to go on a losing streak here, or the defense just not performing well at all and just getting torched like what happened against the Chargers. Then, yeah, you probably got some real chatter that's going to start building about him being replaced. I get there's some fans that are already saying that, but I'm just trying to be as fair as I can, at least with my view. And the guy, I think, is improving. He's getting better, but how much better would he appear, or the defense appear, if they were getting pressure on the quarterback? And at some point, you can only X and O so much. If you don't have the skills or the players to justify it, it's going to be hard for any defensive coordinator to do more. But I would say this, Papa Noel, at the end of the year, I think the Lions are going to have to make a deep, long dive and look at some of their coaching staff. Not all of it. I think some of it's as good as you can get in the NFL. There are some other spots where there's probably some room for improvement. That's probably what I could just say. All right, Phil, we got, with the collapse of Goff's contract talks and the ace T-face with Bugs and AG, is the chemistry damaged in the locker room? I wouldn't think so. The one thing I would say with Bugs, though, I get he's no longer listed as sick. It'll be a real tell if he's out there playing tomorrow, I think. If he's not, we talked about it obviously last week. I think he's on borrowed time if that's the case. The new guy that they brought in, the 6'4", 360-pound guy who performed pretty well last week. I can't remember his name offhand, so sorry, guys. He performed very well, but so have some of the other guys. Lee McNeil is starting. If you look at his win rate percentages, and if you go from the whole season to just the last two games, prior to the last two games, McNeil's win rate, so when he gets single coverage blocking, how often is he winning? It was really only like 55%, and that's not good in the NFL level. It's not good at all. He did obviously have some sacks and stuff here, but the last two games are what I'm going to say I'm focusing on with just this comment. You go back and study his win rates just the last two games, and it's jumped from about 55% to he's probably around 64%. That's still not great in the NFL, but I can tell you this, it's approaching where it's not bad by any means. You could live with that. So, my personal opinion, you got to be right around 70% to be an effective pass rusher in the NFL. You get to 75, 80, now you're pretty elite. So he's not far off from that, but he's got to get his stuff up a little bit higher. And going back to Bugs and AG, as far as their relationship, I would say this: most people get over that stuff pretty quick if it happens one time. Now, if you start talking where it happens 2 or 3 times and now it's a trend, then yeah, one of them's got to go at the end of the year, because while it might not be horrible in the locker room right now, if you allow that to permeate for an entire off season and then have to deal with it again next year, then you're just beating yourself in the head. So we'll see how it goes. If he's out on the field tomorrow, I would say that's a strong indication everything's kumbaya now. Things have passed on, and patched up. If he's not on the field tomorrow, then yeah, that's probably a real red flag to me. All right, MJ, what do you got? Bob Noel, I think AG is doing just enough. Plus, their 8-2 record just is keeping him off the hot seat. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure from a Dan Campbell's standpoint, you're 100% right, MJ, that he's got his back. I mean, that's his guy. So that's his friend. He's going to ride or die with him. So right now, I'll just say this: I wouldn't anticipate there being a hot seat, at least from fans. That's one thing. From the coaching staff or front office, that's probably another thing. All right, Clark, what do you got? Do crew. Morning, all. 34-21 Lions is my call. And if you don't see me Friday, it's because I live with Packers fans. Well, we'll be looking for you on Friday then, man. Hopefully you have a good Thanksgiving no matter what. And hopefully the Lions make it a little bit more enjoyable for you. Papa Noel, Michael Jordan, I don't know. I think they might replace him. I am torn. Well, I think there's room for either debate at this point. So, all right, on Southwest Lion, short week. Lions AG need to figure out a way to get the defense off the field more quickly. They've got to be worn out from being on the field 40 plus minutes for the versus the Bears. Yeah, and man, Southwest, I think you're 100% right there. I mean, the Bears just had so many sustained long drives that even though the Lions did hold them to a lot of field goals, that's a lot of wear on bodies. And, and you guys, we all talked about it yesterday with Hutchinson. To me, he looks like somebody who's getting worn down. And if he's got to go out there and play major snap counts, I get he's still younger, but he doesn't have an S on his chest. He's not, some Marvel superhero. He's a real live person. And all these guys, they went through it on Sunday. There's a real strong possibility that they're just gassed early in the game tomorrow. So if I can think of that, you can think of that, then I'm going to say this. There's got to be a little bit more of an onus on that offense to have ball control and security to say, hey, we got you guys this game. We're going to carry the load. We're going to force their defense to be out there 30, 35 minutes to help just keep our defense a little fresher. If you can do that, then I think the Lions can really have a chance to dominate. Man, I feel like I'm going through puberty here, guys. Sorry. Ryan, what do you got? Lions greatest player names. Lions greatest player names. All right, I see. Now I got to go down one more. All right, number 3, Dick Lane. Number 2, Harry Colin, and 1 hooker. Yeah, and Harry Colin, boy, I remember when he played for us, and thankfully he was okay because I remember his career kind of ended in Detroit with a little bit of an injury. But yeah, you got some great names there. All right, Panku. Bye Barry was good. Didn't know about Montana. Damn, we could have been something. Yeah, and oh boy, you're hitting a sore spot with me, man. So when I would cover the Lions in the 90s and early 2000s, I think just about all of us in the press box, we knew about the Warren Moon possibility, and obviously we went Scott Mitchell. I don't think most of us, or at least I don't remember it at all. So, it has been 20 plus years, knew about the Montana news. So that was a bit of a revelation, because I really recall how close they were to trying to get Warren Moon. And man, I really do think, and I'll probably go to my grave thinking if they would have pulled that off, this team might have been something in the playoffs. I'm not going to say they would have went up to the Super Bowl, but I think they would have got some more playoff wins. They would have been a lot more consistent. Wayne Fontes probably would have been the coach a lot longer. They probably would have had a better reason to keep Chris Spielman and Benny Blades and Lomas Brown and really the core of the team. So if you watch Bye Bye Barry, that's one thing I would say was probably a contributing factor to Barry's decision to ultimately retire when he did, is that everybody he grew up with on the team was no longer here. So yeah, you got some points there. All right, Phil, what do you got? What's with the point shaving accusations mentioned by the Motor City Mana show? I'm oblivious to that. If somebody is making that accusation, I'm not really sure why you would make it. And again, just because if you're going to say, let's just use this example. If you're going to say Goff somehow point shaved, well, then he would have to have intimate knowledge before the game that when Laporta runs that slant, that the Bears linebacker is going to displace him, pass interference, and he's going to be able to throw a timing route, which he would have connected with if Laporta wouldn't have got pass interference. The chances of somebody being able to script that out is, I'm going to say, about 0. Then the next one with the tip pass, he would have had to say, well, I'm going to throw this just close enough to that guy's hand where he can tip it, and I know this guy is going to catch it for an interception. Yeah, I don't know, man. If you've never been in an NFL locker room, or I'm sure a college locker room, or hell, man, even a high school locker room, those guys, they're all focused on one thing, man, because the risk of injury, especially, when in a place like Detroit, where the history of some of the injuries, I would have a hard time believing that. Now, if you're saying a running back or receiver intentionally fumbled a football so somebody else could get it late in the game, could that be more achievable? Yeah. Could a defensive back pull up on a route to allow a receiver to catch it for a score? I think that's more possible. If you're trying to say a quarterback throws a game, I mean, at least from what I saw in Sunday's game, I didn't see anything, but who knows, man? I mean, maybe somebody's got some evidence or whatever. I haven't seen his show, so I couldn't speak more on that than what I'm just saying there. All right, MJ, what do you got? Popping well. I'm right there with you. I think it's 40% on his schematics and 60% on the player talent. Isn't there on the D line? Yeah, I would agree with you there. There's some room for improvement. I think we could have, most of us would agree that there's some room for improvement in some of the schematic principles that they run at times. At times they're very aggressive, and it helps hide some of the lack of talent they have in the pass rush. But when they just got to go four across and drop everybody else and get after the quarterback, there's just, other than Hutchinson, who again I think he's showing signs of fatigue and wear. There's just nobody else who's going to effectively get to that quarterback. And maybe Irvin gets out there on the field and, he's, drank 40 Mountain Dews before the game and he's just jacked up and ready to go and he can get to the quarterback. But I think you've got a good point there that they need some better talent, and then a lot of the schemes will look better. All right, Southwest Point, shaving accusations equals clickbait. Yeah, there's probably something to be said for that. But when it comes to clickbait and everything, here's my, off-topic stance on that. So if you look at the news industry for over 100 years, headlines are clickbait. Whenever they splash on the newspaper or magazine or on TV, certain things, it's clickbait. I mean, let's be honest. Most of these people, this is what they do for a living. I know I did it for since, 88, 89. I worked for different newspapers, and I had more than a few editors that said, hey, you got to change this, you got to change that, because they've got to sell newspapers. And in the days of YouTube and stuff, I would say that maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some of these people do it for a living. I'd be oblivious to that. I do it for fun because I enjoy it. But maybe, yeah, some of them do it just to get clicks because this is how they feed their family. I don't know. All right, Ryan, Montana or Moon would have been great. Mitchell's response to film, yikes. After I watched it last night, got ready for bed and just, scrolling through the phone before I did. And yeah, there was a story about that. And I read it. And I was like, that's so Scott Mitchell. I got to interview him once or twice at post games. And I don't know if any of you remember, gosh, I'm trying to remember the San Diego quarterback who blew up on somebody. He's Ryan Leaf. Mitchell had a few of those moments. And, just that, I guess, just because it was Ford family and everything, they obviously didn't want people to, post so much stuff. And there was no social media back then. But Mitchell, here's my thing. As a coach, I would have got rid of him a long time ago, because I remember the Halloween massacre where he, put a pillow under his shirt and everything and had a cigar and tried to act and insult Wayne Fontes. You never met Wayne Fontes. I'll say this: one of the coolest, calmest dudes you could ever meet. You could ask him any question as long as it wasn't a disrespectful one, and he would sit there and just talk to you in a calm manner. Great guy. Mitchell, to me, I can't say it on air, but he's a butt. We'll put it that way. He was a butt. I didn't like him. I didn't like interviewing him. I get a lot of that was because he was aware of his circumstances. The Lions paid him a lot of money. They turned down some of these other guys, which, I guess Montana was one of them. I knew they turned down Moon to sign Mitchell, and he was aware everybody on that team, as time went on, was not a fan of him. And I think that just kind of ultimately internally weighed on him quite a bit. And when you read his comments after the bye-bye Barry thing, it's clear that even after 20 plus years, that hasn't gone away. He feels pretty jilted. But it is what it is at this point. It's ancient history. But if they could have got Montana or Moon, I still think this team would have probably reached the NFC title game a few more times. And who knows at that point, maybe they would have made the Super Bowl. So you got to give the GM all the blame on that, because it was clear even back then, Coach Fontes did not want him ideally. I get ultimately they had to settle on him, but Fontes knew what he wanted. And he wanted to keep Kramer. That didn't happen. Then it became, we wanted to get Moon. That didn't happen. And to be honest, I don't recall the Montana commentary, but it's clear in Fontes that he said in the film that, yeah, they wanted Montana, and Schmitz turned it down, unfortunately. All right, Dave, what do you got? Phil, I think that's BS and clickbait. that game wasn't anyone trying to keep it close. Yeah, I would agree with that, man. I think it's, hey, Lions had a hell of a comeback, and I don't think there was any intentions to keep it close. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the mob's got long reaches. Phil, Dave did a whole show on it. Well, I mean, I haven't seen the show yet, so I can't speak on it. Maybe he's got some stuff. I mean, it is possible somebody knows something that maybe I don't or you guys don't, but that's all I can say is I don't think, my personal opinion, I don't think that happened. Michael, howdy, Dan, Alliance Faithful. Good morning to you. Hopefully you're having a good one. Five Fingers Freddy. Good morning, all. Great name, man. Great name. Garland, greetings and salutations. Same to you. Zachary just got home from my midnight shift. Looking forward to this live stream. Hey, thanks for that, Zachary. Hopefully you're enjoying it. And if you got any questions, man, or topics, bring it up. Southwest watched the replay of Lions Bears on NFL Network. Lions have to punish these quarterbacks who run. Yeah. And I would agree that if you're going to run on somebody, that's okay. You got to take shots on them because you got to make them not want to do it. Southwest, we talked about it last week with the lead up to the Bears game, that I was worried about Fields just because he's playing for his, NFL life at this point. And that's somebody who has nothing to lose. And that's, to be fair, that's also what I'm kind of concerned about with a lot of the rest of our schedule. Some of these teams, I mean, Green Bay, I think they still have a mathematical chance to make the playoffs, but I think most of them know that's probably not going to happen. So what are they playing for right now? Jordan Love's playing for his career. He's playing for a reason to still be a starting quarterback in Green Bay. A lot of their team is saying, hey, and I can't speak on all their contracts, but if you have a contract expiring or that the team can get out of from under, you need to play your butt off because you want to make sure that you're still employed come next spring, or they haven't drafted a replacement. So it's teams like that really, as a coach, get under my skin because it's just, you're going to get somebody's best shot on every throw. I mean, somebody's trying to go for the knockout all the time, and that's just somebody that's kind of hard to predict because they can do anything. And I'm with you though, that you got a mobile quarterback or any quarterback, you got to get hits on them, even if they're not sacks, because you need to rattle them. All right, Phil, a bit graphic with the thumbnail, Daniel. Hey, man, I enjoyed that one. I enjoy those ones, and I can't use them all the time, but I do have some nice Packer ones. But hope you enjoyed it. Hope it makes a few of you laugh. Pierce, what's going on with John Jackson? It's his wrist. I don't have any wisdom or knowledge for you, Pierce, that like if there's any kind of significant injury. Whatever it is, it's jammed up pretty good. And if just for an offensive or defensive lineman, somebody who has to use their hands all the time, it's really limiting. So my guess is you get him past tomorrow's game, and now he's basically will have had 3 weeks of rest on it. Hopefully he's good. But if you're Jonah Jackson, this is devastating stuff. You will have missed, I don't know, 4 or 5 games this season with different injuries and in a contract year. Yeah, that's just not good news. Now, I guess you could argue the counterpoint to that is the Lions are like, you know what? You need to sit another game or two, go for it, because they know that that's going to help with contract negotiations next year. The price comes down a little bit more, right? But I hope he's good to go come next week or, after Thanksgiving. All right, Southwest, hope Fields plays as well against the Vikings. I agree with that this Sunday as he did it against the Lions. Yeah, if the Bears pull off that one, the Vikings are done at that point. If the Vikings lose another game before playing us, unless we just really, unless we go on a losing streak, I just don't think they have a chance at that point. But you've got to win out as Detroit to keep the pressure on the Vikings, because then we got 7 games left. If we win this week and they lose this week, you're 4 games back, and 2 of them are against Detroit. Yeah, you're in rough shape. Mile marker, good morning. Thumbnail funny. I'm glad you enjoy it, man. Phil, you have a cold, or have you been yelling at your players? I've been yelling at players and yelling out loud. So 2 days down, we got another one today. Yeah, the voice starts feeling a little bit, but you go in a couple more weeks, the vocal cords get used to it. It evens out. JP, what do you got? I feel better about this game. The Lions match up better against Green Bay. Yeah, Fields is the X factor. I'm going to imagine for most teams. And I was talking to Mike about it yesterday, and I don't think that Fields is going to get out of Chicago. At least I would hope not for them. But as a Lions fan, I probably hope he does, because any quarterback they're going to draft in the Bears, that is, in the first round, while they're probably going to have better throwing passes, it's just Fields is such an X factor that if somebody, whoever takes him, whether it's Chicago or whatever team ends up with him next year, if they can just groom his accuracy a little bit more, his route reading, just nuances of the position. Unfortunately, I don't think he was taught a whole lot in college. Then you've got somebody who's just dangerous. I mean, he's Steve Young, he's Randall Cunningham, he's whoever you want to compare him to. He's a matchup problem on every drop back. All right, Joe, what do you got? Happy 9-2, fellow Lions fans. Happy 8-2. I think I said 9-2. Happy 8-2 to you too. Phil, another trap game. It's always possible, but every game is a trap game. You could lose any game. Drome, good morning. And Chris Spielman, a part of the Lions, and what does he bring to our team? I think he just, in his role, I think he's just there to help advise non-football people on football things. And that's a problem that's been around the Lions for a long time. You've got a lot of people have been making choices that don't really understand the game and some of the nuances. And not to try to keep referencing Bye Bye Barry, but if you watch that show, I think you get a sense for the mismanagement the Lions went through in a lot of the 90s. And you can argue before then and definitely after that. But that's, I think the quick answer there is Spielman tries to help advise people on, hey, maybe that's not such a great idea. It might work in the office, space or whatever, the business world, but it doesn't work in the football world. All right, Southwest, don't take the Packers lightly. I agree. They've lost quite a few close games. They have. Now, one good thing for Detroit, at least on yesterday's injury list, they've got quite a few guys out, especially at the running back position and other spots. They're going to be using their depth a whole lot more in our game. So I would just say don't overlook anybody and pound the heck out of them. Keep our offense on the field so our defense can rest, because like you guys pointed out earlier in the show, you got some guys that are going to be real weary after last Sunday's game. All right, Mr. Nico, good morning, coach and crew. What do you think a Lions playoff run looks like? Do you see CD Deuce back by then? I think I did a thing on Houston and CJ Gardner, I don't know, a week or two ago. And I would say this, I still think both of them are going to be back. It's just going to be December. I'd say Houston early to mid-December, where CJ would be mid to late December. The fact that he's doing push-ups, he's, doing upper body strength workouts, all those things, man, I got to imagine he's pretty close, especially since we're talking, at that point, you're 3-4 months into recovery. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a doctor or anything like that, so I can't tell you. I do think, Houston's definitely going to be back. CJ, I think if he's close and if they can get him on the roster for the playoffs, they're going to do it. And then it just comes to getting him back into the flow of things, getting the rust off him. So we'll see. Rafi, what do you got? Man, I've been saying this, and I seem to can't say it enough. The Lions need to utilize all their options, manage the workload. I love what they are doing with Gibbs and Money, but I'd love to see that. Yeah, and it's just, football's a physical game. We all get that. And if you're having people out there the vast majority of the time throughout the season, those guys are going to get beat down. Those bodies are going to get worn. I know a few years ago, the New England Patriots started doing it where they were rotating an offensive lineman every series just to try to preserve those guys throughout the season. And I thought that was a great idea. I haven't seen any other team do it since then, but I think you've got to do everything you can to keep guys as fresh as you can, as long as you can, especially as the NFL continues to move how many games on the season. It used to just be, I can remember when I think it was just a 14-game season, and now it's a 17-game season. That's just every game, especially if you're talking the trenches, the offensive and defensive lines, the running backs, the tight ends, just the physical guaranteed punishment positions. That's a train wreck or a car wreck, whatever you want to say, on a body every game. And it's just, if you want to keep these guys healthy throughout a season, let alone for a few seasons, you've got to be cognizant of that. I get as coaches, you got to get wins or you're canned and you're out the door, and you've got to take care of your family. But at the same time, it's a juggling act. You got to take care of your players too. Otherwise, you ain't going to have them pretty quick. So yeah, Rafi, it's a tough one. And I don't envy anybody who has to make those choices because, again, you have to balance so many things with every decision. Michael, hey, Coach, have you heard of the Lions going after the backer from the Colts that went on waivers? He's 28. I lost name, but looking at the stats, he's a good mid-tier linebacker. Yeah, I did see something about him getting cut. My question would be, man, if he was a defensive end or something, I think you probably got something there. But unless this guy, and I don't know him enough to be able to say one way or the other, so don't hold me to it. Unless he's got real pass rush skills, are you going to take Anzalone out of lineup to give this guy snaps? And then I guess it becomes, do you take Campbell or Barnes out of the lineup to give him snaps? So if you're going to bring him in, I think unless you're just doing it for depth, which I think the Lions actually have decent linebacker depth, who are you putting down to bring him up? And, I don't know him well enough to be able to say one way or the other. I don't know jack about the dude other than he was cut. There's some speculation about him. So that's all, unfortunately, I can tell you, MJ. All right, Ryan, we got NFC North teams start this weekend's games, Detroit, Green Bay, and finish the games on Monday night, mini Chicago. Yeah, I'll be looking forward to watching the mini Chicago one, obviously for selfish reasons as a Lions fan. All right, Rafi, what do you got with everybody? Laporta, Reynolds, St. Brown, everybody. Yeah, rotate them, and keep them healthy. I think the Lions have done a pretty good job with most receivers and even positional players. I worry about that defensive line because the talent you do have out there has been out there quite a bit, and you've got to help those guys stay healthy too. You could even say that with the defensive backs because they don't rotate them a ton. All right, Mr. Ed, what do you got? Good morning, Coach. If Lions win the toss, I would go on offense. Would you, given the fact that what the defense went through last Sunday, 100%. And I'd tell those guys, hey, challenge them, grab some face masks, and tell everybody, this is about a team. This is about a family. This is about us. It's not about offense or defense. It's about we need to do our part. We didn't do it until the last, 3 minutes of the second quarter and then the third or fourth quarter. But we need to understand our family is hurting, especially on the defensive side of the ball. We need to own this game and the clock in this game. So let's go out and start this game with an 8-minute drive. When we get the ball back, let's get another long drive. Those dudes need to sit so they can stay fresh along in the game because, it might seem to most of us, hey, you just had 3 days off or whatever from the last game. But that's for an NFL player, any kind of football player, that's just not enough. Those legs are shot. Those bodies are sore. Those muscles are pulled. Yeah. So there's your answer, Ed. Yes, I would take the ball. I'd say we're going to put it down the throat. And we're going to watch that clock tick before we make every snap. Jerome, what do you got? Hey, Coach, have you ever heard of people accusing Goff of point shaving? Ridiculous. Yeah, it'd be one thing. This is the last I'll say on this. It'd be one thing if Goff just dropped back and threw it straight to the other team 3 or 4, 29 times in a game. Okay, then he might have a case. But given the type of interceptions he had, and I've already talked about it, the tip pass, I mean, the chances of somebody being that skilled to be able to say, I'm going to be able to, was it the old McDonald's commercial with Larry Bird and Michael Jordan? All right, off the backboard through the roof or whatever, nothing but net. I mean, he would have to say, hey, I'm going to bounce it off your pinky finger and I'm going to have it spin 4 times into that rushing linebacker who's diving for the ball. All right, on 3, go, and just stuff like that. I don't see that. So that's just my opinion, at least. All right, what do you got? The Matrix, Shaq Leonard is available. Yeah, that's the guy's name, and would be a great fit for our defense. He may be. It's just, guys, I'm just trying to be as honest as I can be. I don't know enough about the player to be able to say if he's a great addition or not. Some of you guys may know more about him than I have. I haven't watched film on him, so I can't really have an opinion while being fair to you guys, at least. If he is somebody who can get to after the quarterback, I'd be signing him super quick. I mean, I'd be sending the Mountain Dew mobile to go pick him up with the Mountain Dew jet to go get him over here. Can he play tomorrow? Because obviously we need that. If you're just asking somebody who's a straight normal backer, then I think we've got a bunch of those guys, and it would be, who is he an upgrade over? Is he going to be an upgrade over Anzalone, Barnes, Campbell? That's something you guys may know more of than I do. All right, Dominic, good morning from Texas. Let's go Lions. Hopefully you're having a great morning over there. Rafi, what do you got? As sorry as Chicago was, we can't have close games like that. Early leads and defense need to stay on the gas pedal too close for comfort. I agree. You're going to get, especially as that record of ours keeps elevating, you're going to get everybody's best shots. Everybody's going to want to be the team that, gave Detroit the third loss. Because that's going to make your locker room, if you're the opposing team, feel that much better. Your coach is going to be able to say, see, we're going the right direction. We just beat one of the NFL's elites. Let those words sink in. We just beat one of the NFL's elites. And hey, that's how crazy things have changed in Detroit, right? You got teams that aren't competitive in the league. They're going to want to come and ball out because they want to beat one of the NFL's top teams. So yeah, you got to be ready to take all those people's punches. Southwest, I want Goff to be a long-term quarterback here, but I can understand the Lions wanting to see if he can lead them to wins in the postseason before doing an extension. Yeah, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. You want to know what you got, and hey, you're as good as your last game, and your Goff's last game while he was money in the 2-minute drives in both halves. He obviously was not great, I guess you could say, in the rest of the game. All right. So yeah, I think they're going to want him to prove it a little bit more as the season goes on. Trump, blitz. Yeah, I would do everything I could to not only be physical with that offensive line of Green Bay, but with the running backs, especially since they're potentially without a few of their better running backs this game. And then obviously the quarterback, you got to hit them, you got to rattle them, you got to abuse them, because you cannot allow this defense to go out there for another 30 to 40 minutes. They're just not going to have any gas left. You're going to be giving up score after score after score. It would be my anticipation if you allow that. So you got to take some risks. You got to get them off the field. All right, Bergs, hey, good morning, man. Good morning, Lions faithful, and good morning, Dan the man. Good morning to you too, my friend. Hopefully you're having a great one. Manifest my destiny. Hey, Dan, wishing you and the family have an awesome Thanksgiving, and may your bellies be full following a Lions victory. I'm down with that, and thanks for that, Manifest. Hopefully you guys have a good one too, you and your family. Mr. Nico, good morning, crew. What does a Lions playoff run look like? What do you think our biggest downfall for a good playoff run? Lastly, do I need a diaper for the Packers game? May the dew be with everybody. Thanks for all that, Mr. Nico. Good playoff run. I think, boy, I hate saying it, but it probably looks like if everything holds form right now, we're going to be hosting Minnesota and playing them for 3 times in less than a month. So that would be number one. Number two, the physicality and the speed. You'll hear people talk about it. It's a different level in the playoffs, and it is, because everybody knows it's do or die. This is your chance, your window of opportunity to make a push in the playoffs and get to the Super Bowl. Everybody's fighting for it. Yes, the players do get paid, by the postseason games, so there is a monetary reason to keep playing hard. But it's not a significant amount, but it is an amount, and you got to understand, if you're a pro athlete, you are wired a certain way. You want to be measured by the best out there. You want your name to be mentioned with those guys. And the other part is, man, you never know when it will happen again. 91, and that's one thing the Barry showed to point out. It was his 3rd year in the league, and they were like, man, we're going to be here again and again. We're going to get the Super Bowl. There's no guarantees. And it's sad as it is, there's no guarantees. It's not just in the NFL, but in other leagues, you would anticipate Charles Barkley would have won an NBA championship, or other guys. It doesn't always happen. And so when you get that opportunity, they're going all out. The biggest downfall to me is lack of pass rush and some depth in the secondary. That defense concerns me, and I'm just trying to be as honest as I can be. You cannot give quarterbacks, especially if you made it to the playoffs, you got a pretty good quarterback. You got a pretty good offense. And if you give somebody, 3, 4, 5 Mississippis before they're even touched, that's probably not going to go well for you. All right, Trump, Bahama, yeah, and yeah, he's I haven't seen enough on him to really have an opinion, but what little I did see, you know what, he's not bad, but the only problem is he going to generate pass rush pressure? And again, I've only seen a little bit on him. It wasn't there enough for me, but he's a mammoth dude, and he's going to help out against the run, which we're already pretty good at, and he's another body to throw at somebody, so that kid could be a weapon. All right, Rafi. Uh, and lastly, we definitely need to look at a mobile quarterback. Man, I'm tired of seeing Goff run out the pocket and run backwards. Like, what the heck is he doing? If you're going to leave the pocket, at least get some yards. Yeah, and Goff. I don't think I'm giving a spoiler alert here, but if you guys haven't watched Goff before, he's probably not much of a threat to get out and run a ton. He's one of the less athletic quarterbacks, I would say, as far as speed and such in the NFL. But you got what you got with him. And I would say this, since we've talked about bye Barry, if you would have had Goff on those '90s teams, you probably would have made the playoffs a little bit more often. Heck, who knows? You might have even won another playoff game. So there's that. I mean, he's not elite. I think we all get that, but he's not bad either. All right, Ryan, excuse me. Even though St. Brown has 1 year left on his contract, they need to pay him after this season. He has made less than $1 million each season. Yeah, and he's going to, whether it's in Detroit or whoever. I'm guessing Detroit's not letting him go. He's going to get a pretty good pay bump. I'm guessing. All right, mile marker. It's been 5 years since a Thanksgiving win. Sure would be nice this year. Give thanks to the Lions. Yeah, I think there's a good chance we're going to win. But again, I think a lot of it is going to be centered around the offense controlling the game and getting that defense out the field. If the defense is going to be out there for a while, I probably, and I know I mentioned this earlier, I'm Aaron Glenn. I'm going, hey, I'm going to do what I can to get you guys out the field. I'm probably looking at Dan Campbell and saying, we're either going to kill the quarterback and the Packers, or we're going to give a bunch of points today, because I can't ask these guys to go through another 30, 40-minute time possession for the Packers game. We're going to be Blitzburg. We're going to take every gamble we can, because we either got to hit home runs or strike out. We've got to get them off the field. So maybe at least in the fourth quarter, or maybe the second half of the third quarter, if at that point we've got to do some grinding on defense, you know what? We're a little bit fresher at that point in the money rounds, I guess you could say. All right, Anthony, good morning, all. Good morning to you, too. Hopefully you're having a do. Southwest Lion, I've been a huge AG critic, but players do have to win their one-on-ones. Yeah, and that's, hey, man, that's coaching right there. I mean, you can have the greatest coaches in the world, but if you don't have the players to support any of the schemes or principles you're trying to put out there, it ain't going to matter too much. Trump agreed Goff is a statue, his only fault. Yeah, and he's a pretty straight up statue. I mean, he's just not mobile. Is what it is. All right, manifest my destiny. The only question I have is, if the Lions defense gives up more than 20 points tomorrow, are we just going to have to accept the defense is just being average this year, which is better than last year? I don't think the defense is bad, but like, if I had to give them a ranking in the NFL, I'd probably put them in the middle of the pack. They're probably about average. They don't have many elite players. I mean, Brian Branch, I think, ultimately can become an elite player. Do I think he's elite right now? No, but he's not. He's not bad by any means. He's really, really good. Hutchinson, at the start of the year, the first month, I'd say he's elite. But as you've seen him get worn down, some of that elite comes off just because he doesn't have the strength to go through it. He is worn down, and from there, Cam Sutton, I think, is a real good corner. I don't think he's elite. And you guys can have your own opinions. If you think somebody's elite, that's totally okay. I'm just telling you what my eyes see. I think we have a lot of real good players on defense. There's just not a lot of playmakers. CJ Gardner, at least in his past, I'm not going to say here in Detroit because there's not enough sample size. I think he's a close to an elite player. Well, let me rephrase that. He's a playmaker. He gets burned on some things, but he makes plays on other things. And that's something that I think the defense sorely needs. If we had one other playmaker, pass rusher, and like Gardner Johnson out there instead of Tracy Walker, would I move the defense from, say, 16th in the league to maybe a 10 or 11? Yeah. And that's a pretty good sized jump when you're talking out of 32 teams. And that's ultimately, I think that's what hurts this team is just the defense is okay. It just doesn't typically make a ton of plays. All right, Trump, that was the turnovers. Yes. Watched your show with Micro. Why do you think the D has such an issue with mobile quarterbacks? Athleticism, in my opinion. Hutch is a very good player, but name another person out there that if a quarterback runs and takes off, they can keep up with him. One of the fixes for that would be Houston. Houston is damn athletic and quick. I get he's not the biggest guy, nor is he, the most physical guy. That's why he gets beat up in the run game. But if you're asking somebody to track down a mobile quarterback, he's pretty ideal. So you've got your him and haw with him. You're going to be able to do something against mobile quarterbacks, but you're going to have to account for him in the running game because he is going to lose out against a lot of NFL tackles. And when it comes to run blocking, he doesn't get past those run blocks very well. And I'm guessing that's why he didn't start at the beginning of the year. But to me, you got to pick your poison. You got enough guys who should be able to help somewhat augment his deficiencies in the running game while saying, hey, now we got a weapon that when it is a passing down, he causes problems for an offensive line. So I'm really hoping, if you can't tell, that Houston comes back because he would help fix some of the weaknesses in this defense. But yeah, and nothing against some of the other interior offensive linemen, but those guys aren't, not that there are many in the NFL, but someone like Justin Fields or Jordan Love or Herbert, those quarterbacks are going to outrun a lot of defensive linemen, and we just don't have a lot of athletes on the defensive line. All right. Yep. Run the ball, Trump. Yep. I agree. Answer 14. Greetings, salutation, Dan and Lions Talk Live crew. Hopefully we can rotate guys in and out, keep the guys fresher. Yeah, they're going to have to this game. Probably more than they normally want to, but they're going to have to do that just to help protect the players and be able to play at a better level, I think, tomorrow. Phil, kudos to Lions medical staff. Yeah, they've done a pretty good job. Jerome, what do you got? Hey, coach, is mental toughness a real thing, or is that just a pep talk? No, it's a real thing. So if you guys have watched this for a while, this is usually when I get to the point in talking about. So when I go out and evaluate players, or scouting, overseas and stuff, markets, here's what I'll tell you. There are a lot of people that got talent. There are not a lot of people that do well under pressure. Use that for just, for the sake of this discussion, use that for a quarterback, reference. How many guys do you think on the planet Earth can drop back knowing that a bunch of 300-pound dudes are going to go on a full sprint and try to take your head off? Now, that doesn't seem like much until one of those dudes tattoos you once or twice. You'll watch a lot of people start getting gun shy. God, what's his name? Jim Everett, if you guys remember him. I get the Rams didn't do him much justice with that offensive line, but that guy started hitting the ground thinking he was about to get hit because he got so much PTSD from getting hit in the back and other parts of his body, where that's a real thing. And it's across the NFL and it's other sports too. When if you talk to me about basketball, the worst case of this I could ever mention is Randolph Keys. That dude, if a game was 20 points, his team was up or down 20 points, that dude was Michael Jordan out there. He would destroy anybody out there. That game got down to like 10, 12 points, though. He couldn't bounce that ball off his knees or legs or out of bounds any faster. There's just some people out there that just cannot handle pressure. And in regards to mental toughness, that's you watch players in games, how they handle adversity or the pounding. Yeah, you start figuring out who can play, who can't real quick. And let me tell you, when you're drafting players, if your team isn't listening to you on those points, they're missing the boat. Because when that guy, and I can think of another one, 49ers quarterback, and I don't remember his name, but looked great in college. And this was after Steve Young retired. Great in college, did all sorts of things, physical, athletic, howitzer for an arm, could rifle the ball 70 yards downfield. But as soon as he snapped that ball and there was pressure in his face, that dude couldn't have thrown it away, become less accurate, or throw it to the wrong team any faster if he tried, as long as he was avoiding hits. So I guess that's the long answer for that, Drone. All right, Dr. D, what do you got? I thought Scott Mitchell was a good quarterback, a perfect no, but Moon was a spectacular. Yeah, and I think what happened, and this is my opinion, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, Dr. D. When he got here, he had, I think it was his first year, maybe it was his second year. He had a pretty good year. I mean, pretty real good year. The problem was, I think the pressure of the games plus the hits, the pressure of the franchise that hey, I've got to perform at a certain level or we've got no chance. I think all that started wearing on him. And once that first crack in his armor started emerging, the pressure started getting in. The teammates, I mean, we all probably know I don't agree with what Lomas Brown did to him. If you don't know, Dave Craig was the backup. Lomas and Scott Mitchell weren't exactly, we'll put this way, they weren't drinking a Mountain Dew together anytime. Lomas Brown let somebody go by and hit Mitchell just to get him hurt and get him out of the game because Lomas Brown did not think he was a great quarterback. And I don't agree with that, by the way. Don't do a teammate like that. I don't care how much you don't agree with him. But Mitchell, I think the longer he was here, it's just the weight of everything got to him and his performance went down more and more. And the fact that he's still that emotional about things 20 plus years later probably lets you know how, I mean, if he's still hurting now from it and he's had 20 some years to recover, how bad was it then? And in the locker room, interviewing him after games and stuff like that, you could see, yeah, that dude was struggling with some stuff and pressure. Hey, it gets to everybody differently. Not everybody handles it well. I feel bad for the guy because nobody should have to feel like your teammates are, talking jazz about you or trying to get you hurt so you're out of the game. I mean, that's just got to be a horrible feeling. And obviously, all these years later, it's still sticking with him. Cocaine Wayne, yes. Hey, man, he was part of the 80s, right? 80s and 90s. But yeah, the big buck and Rasputin, all that stuff. I love that dude. And like I said, he was a great interview. He was a cool dude. All right, Anthony, what do you got? The Motor City Man podcast blows. Don't listen to nothing that guy has to say. I don't know him horribly well. I've seen him probably twice or so. I think I mentioned it yesterday. I think he's got pretty good graphics. I can tell you he can do stuff with that jazz that I can't. Beyond that, I don't know a whole lot about him. All right, Trump's couple of those looked like he was throwing to the wrong guy. It could be, but I can only tell you what. If I'm assuming you're talking about Goff. When I was watching the film, a lot of it just like the first pick. Yeah, that should have been pass interference. I think it was the third pick. That thing got tipped. That'd be hard to plan out. Now, the second pick, I would say if he had a few more like that, then I think he got something there because you know what? That was just a real bad pass. That was like I think it was the Atlanta's first drive of the third quarter where, man, he was clearly reading something that the rest of the offense wasn't. And yeah, he threw that one away. You get enough of those, though, you're going to get people to come out and say, hey, maybe he's doing something. All right. Anthony Goff had a bad game, plain and simple. Yeah. And hey, man, it's not Madden or whatever. It's not a video game where, hey, repeatable things happen over and over. People are going to hit you off guard with things. You can have, and I'll say this because I'm not going to go into it, but I do think there was a emotional, personal event in Goff's life that perhaps also led to why he did not play great Sunday, and leave it at that. He probably was not his normal self. All right, Trump, a cheap shot from Funch's messed Hutchins up. Yeah, and I think there's some truth to that for sure. Yeah, when he got, I think you're talking about when he got that pick and he got the hit low in the leg, right above the knee. Yeah, that probably has had an accumulative effect along with overplaying and stuff. So I think you're probably right on that one. All right, Dr. Detroit, the defense knew what we were doing. I agree. Yeah. And I talked about it, what was it, yesterday and then and other shows. They clearly, Chicago, scouted hard for Detroit. They were ready and to hit us exactly in certain spots. They were playing the flats. They changed the defense as far as their linebackers over the middle to basically spy the quarterback's eyes. They were daring us. This is probably what we can say. We're going to take away everything short and intermediate from you. We're going to dare you to throw it long. And it's easy for me to say now because you get to watch it on film and I'm not getting anybody trying to hit me. but those long shots were there throughout the game. You're going to probably have to do that a little bit more early in games to pull defenses out of coverages, because like we've talked about with different teams, everybody's going to try to copy that because obviously it caused turnovers and caused issues for Detroit. So I'm going to be watching. I know I've mentioned it before, the defensive line of Green Bay and then the second tier, the linebackers. Right off the bat, when Detroit goes on offense, that's going to be a big tell what they're going to try to do. Now watch, do you got one high or single high safeties? Are the corners, watch their first couple steps out of the break. So when the ball gets snapped, where do their shoulders turn? Are they playing zone coverage and just dropping into the lanes? Or are they sitting there watching the quarterback's eyes, trying to break on any short intermediate passes? These are big tells. And, you know, if I'm an idiot and I can see it on tape, probably anybody getting paid for a living who's, you know, worried about getting a new contract can do even more than that, who's going to spend 3 or 4 days analyzing that stuff and then translating it to the game. The only thing that I think that will limit Green Bay in those regards to tomorrow's game is you only got walkthrough practices and you have limited practices at that while dealing with some injuries. But we all need to be paying attention to it because, you know, we're going to see other teams do it until Detroit pulls teams out of it. So went on too much there, but you guys get it. Anthony, 12-pack of Dew says Goff throws 0 picks this Sunday. Ooh, man, that's a tantalizing offer. Man, I don't want to bet against Goff. I'm not into that, man. I'm just gonna say I'm hoping he goes with 0 picks too, man. Willard, what do you got? Can't Lions fans be happy with a playoff appearance or a playoff win? Remember, Brad Holmes said it was a 5-year plan. Too much YouTube videos. Some of these fans, 1 hour of internet a day. Yeah, you know, I'll just say this, man. I think it's just human nature to a certain degree. We all want victories now, and we want things to go for us faster and faster, and it happens, man. I will say this, Willard. I think they've done a hell of a job turning this franchise around in a hurry. And yes, I see, because the sunlight's starting to come through, I'm starting to get the little glow, the Barry Gorey's The Last Dragon glow. All right, I hope you're right. Me too, man. Answer 14, we had like 20 million plus in cap space. Now it's down to 3 million. I don't know where it went. All dollar store players, 3 million doesn't give us much buying power, does it? No, it doesn't. But at this point in the year, yeah, most teams have signed new players and stuff, and yeah, the cap starts going away. You sleep, Dan? I do, but not probably enough, especially if you ask Jen. Dr. D. Willard, you don't pick your time, it picks you, and right now is time. This is a window open moment, and you have to be ready to seize that moment. It can pass for 6 years. Man, that's a great thought right there. Yeah, you get your opportunities, take it, because I'm sure when the Lions walked off the field with that 1956 NFL championship, they weren't thinking, hey, 60 plus years later, we haven't done this again, especially since they were so dominant in the 50s and you could argue the 40s as well. Trump Hooker's tape is solid. If healthy, let Goff walk, save cash for the players. That will be the big question, right? That will be the big reveal at the end of this year if they do an extension for Goff. How long? I know we talked about that yesterday, but it'll be a big tell where Brad Holmes and the coaching staff thinks of Hooker and Goff. So you're not wrong. Answer 14, Mitchell was lunch for a football uniform. He's bitter because he earned it. Yeah, and it's man, I don't want it. I don't wish that on anybody to be that bitter, especially that long. But yeah, he's probably not coming back for any Lions alumni get together, is he? Dr. D, let's see how Goff finishes. Agreed. Trump, remember the savior Chuck Long, his first NFL pass was a TD. Yeah, man. Chuck Long. Oh, man. I think he's coaching now, if I'm not mistaken. I know he was a couple years ago. I guess I can't say this season, but, you know, they thought they had something in him and Chuck it Long, but, yeah, he just didn't pan out. There's a lot of reasons for that. Dr. D. Mitchell is a good dude and was a good QB. History is not being kind to him at all, and that's Bees. Yeah, and again, I just think they need to do something to try to mend that a little bit because obviously he was hurt during his time here as far as emotionally and physically too at times, but the pressure got to him, and yeah, you got to protect your own man. All right, Merlot, what do you got? Wayne Fontes was the best Lions coach. Players loved him. Took Lions to NFC Championship game. Now Dan Campbell will surpass Wayne Fontes as the best Lions coach. There's something to be said to that. I know I've said it earlier today, but I love Wayne Fontes, the big buck. He had a personality. He was a quote machine. He did know how to handle players. I would say this: if you go back and interview his players, I'm going to guess probably like 95%, maybe more than that, loved him to death because he was a character. He was a hoot. All right, Trump's genius. Don't worry about teams with running quarterbacks. Eventually, they get hurt. They do, unless they protect themselves. Which unfortunately a lot of them don't learn that enough. Michael Jordan. Ivan needs to be doing a Dan Campbell special if he's going to do New York pressure. Have 17 espresso shots with 40 dues if he expects 5 of 10 plays and he is slow. Kudos him signing. Yeah, I hope he comes in and really can help things. But given his age, given the workload, like I think I mentioned it before, I think Bruce is going to come in and maybe give you 10 to 18 snaps a game. But still, those can be impactful. If you're asking him to go all out on those snaps, then maybe he can give you a little bit more than what we're anticipating. All right, guys, it's been an hour. The dew is calling me, and then I got to get to work. I'll do 1 or 2 more, and then it's time for me to get out of here. All right, Terry, what do you think about Tom Brady's comments? I guess, to be fair, I'm not 100% sure of them, so I'll have to look them up and then get back to you tomorrow, Terry. Just don't want to steer you wrong. Don, Dr. D, defenses are getting used to Ben Johnson, it seems, and I could call a few plays by watching the lineup. Yeah, and I think you're right on that, Don, and I know I've mentioned it before. Last year, you caught him off guard because defense coordinators didn't have a lot of film on them, especially in offseason to prepare. Where this year, I mean, you're starting to form good baselines on things, and people are going to start, and I think they have, to your point, this year, catching up to them a little bit. JP, I thought the thumbnail was a chuckle too. Yeah, thanks for that, man. Jennifer has ABS of steals. She does. She's downstairs working out right now, man. Justin, I love that Tampa Bay isn't scared to say what Tom Brady isn't scared to say what he feels good for him. All right. Lions are fine. INTs and ref suck. Yes. Yeah, I'm going to have to look up what Tom Brady said because I guess I must have missed it yesterday. Apologies, guys. Willard, my wife told me today if I continue watching this channel, she'd be packing all of her things. I'm sure going to miss her. Well, tell her I'm sorry for her loss. Thanks for that. That was a good one. I'm going to have to look that up. Ben needs to switch it up a bit or go vanilla here for the playoffs. Willard, yeah, that was a good one. First play against Green Bay is a bomb to JMO, loosen up the D. Yeah, and I'm with you 100%. They need to start incorporating that to pull coverages off. Let's see what do we got here. Merlot, I agree with Ryan. Okay, yep, me too. Joe, in my memory, Houston was being used as a coverage linebacker when he went down. What does everyone think he was going to solve our pass rush? AG might have a different role in mind. And you're 100% right, because I can remember last year, as the year went on, they used him in coverage a lot too. And then obviously had him go after the quarterback on specific plays. But that kid, in my mind, he can get to the quarterback better than most of our other options. So when he comes back, hopefully he can do that. Our wife, oh boy, I'm leaving that one alone, Justin, just because I can't say some of that. Trump signed Sue and Watt Super Bowl. I'd be okay with that. Nothing else for some depth. Trump, that almost pick six was horrible after already throwing a few picks. It was. Jay, of all the teams, the Lions point shaving people need to understand it's the NFL. Any given Sunday you can lose. These guys are playing to put food on their family tables. I 100% agree with that. All right, Motown Mitch. Biggest downfall to me is the cornerback position, and it's pretty clear. QBs can't cover for 2 seconds. CBs can't cover for 2 seconds. The QBs get that ball off quickly, eat these cornerbacks up. Jacobs is a good backup, but needs that number one. Yeah, I would agree that he would have been more ideally set up to be a number 3 cornerback. Top tier, let's try Barney off the edge sometimes. Barnes off the edge sometimes. They did that earlier in the year, and then they went away from it for whatever reason. Top tier. We may have to see it again. Oh, I take it back. They did do it on a couple of snaps against Chicago, I think in the second half. Bet Lady defense would be mediocre the rest of the way until Houston and CD Deuce come back. The three key to win every week are 1, effective pass rush, 2, pass protection, 3, limiting turnovers. I'd agree with all that on those 3. All right, guys. Happy Thanksgiving to you too, Bit Lady. I got to get out of here, got to get moving, get things done. But I hope you all have a great day. I will have a show tomorrow morning, just in case you guys know. If you guys don't make it in, I get it. It's Thanksgiving. Spend time with your fans, your friends and family. Hope you all have a great day. If there is any kind of breaking news later today, I'll get on the mic and get it to you guys. But have a good one. Enjoy your day, and we'll see you all on the next Lions Talk Live. Take care, everybody.